Here we go with another discovery set. This time up is Strangelove. I had heard about this brand on and off over the years. I think part of their mistake a little bit is in branding. For a while, I think in the back of my head, I thought it was related to Prin, his line Strangers. And I knew it was an oud based set, and I've never been particularly interested in oud, and they're very expensive. But what actually got me interested enough to try it out finally was an interview with the founder on a podcast. I really like kind of her values about fragrance, and I like the way the brand has only released 5 fragrances. They're not overdoing it. They're not overly quick to pump out fragrances. And I think they have a really well-defined aesthetic that centers around oud, or really pushing one core luxurious ingredient for each scent. And they have nice names. And the other thing that pushed me over was a lucky scent coupon. This used to be $75, and they had a 25 off when you spend 75, so it met exactly the coupon. So I got this for 50, but I looked recently and it's 125 now. I think in the last month or so, they did a huge price increase. So they're very expensive, as it says, lavishly imbued with pure oud. Their kind of shtick is that everything is based around oud, or in the case of Melt My Heart, I think iris. Each one is supposed to have, some very fine ingredient as the core. The perfumer, Christophe Laudemiel, I actually don't know that much about his other fragrances other than the kind of fun fact that he did Abercrombie Fierce. I've listened to him on podcasts and his YouTube as well. He's also extremely entertaining. He's really into calling out what he sees as the kind of hypocrisy or the wrongdoings in the perfume world. So he's interesting. I've worn all of these except for Melt My Heart. I've had this for almost 2 months, but they're big, long-lasting perfumes, so I feel like to really get a good impression, to have something to say about them, I had to wear them a couple times, wear them on skin. Today I'm gonna try them on strip. I think skin is always the way to go to make a final decision, but sometimes I really like having it on paper because you can revisit it throughout the day, even a day later, whereas on skin, it maybe gets rubbed off on your clothes or you take a shower. So I think in some ways you can more accurately judge the development on a piece of paper. Right off the bat, as soon as I opened the package, I sprayed on Fall Into Stars and immediately thought, oh, this is good. I actually don't have any oud perfumes besides Cartier's Oud and Oud. Like I said, it's not my favorite genre. I've been tempted by one of the Louis Vuitton ouds. I like Nuit de Feu is okay. I think my favorite was actually maybe Ambre Nomad or the Rose one. But the instant I sprayed Fall Into Stars, I thought, wow, I'm glad I did not spend much money on the Louis Vuitton ouds when this stuff is out there. One other just note, I recently tried Frederic Malle de Dawn, which is also extremely good. That one doesn't get a lot of love. I think it's maybe the least bold, and that's what I like about it. But anyway, back to Strangelove. I think I'd like to have one big oud in my collection. I'm not super into hunting down indie artisanal things, although I'm sure people who have time to invest in that will tell you can find better things for lower prices. But part of what I'm paying here is for the selection process, the trained nose to put together a composition. I'm not really interested in just paying for the material. I want a composition. I want it to wear nicely. I want the perfumer to round off rough edges, etc. So if you do want those rough edges, this might not be the brand for you. So I'll go through each with my impressions from when I wore them, and I'll come back and revisit the strips later today. So let's see what's up. So first, Fall Into Stars. Gotta say, I think this was my favorite, and it's also maybe the most similar to what you might think of a luxury designer oud. I'm not talking a fake luxury oud like Tom Ford oud would. I'm talking something like Louis Vuitton, which again, it's arguable if there's any real oud in that either. But I feel like several luxury brands have come out with an extra high tier of fragrance based around oud. There's a few from Givenchy now, and it has that kind of profile. But what distinguishes this is, again, I'm no expert, but I feel like the real oud in the base lends quite a bit of complexity I don't get in those other ones. Those other ones, you get a woody, smoky facet that drones on for days and days, but after a few hours, it doesn't really develop. Whereas this, I found, changed quite a bit on my skin throughout the day. So here we go. Maybe this is like a $10 spray now. Yeah, so immediately it's that familiar oud smell. I think it's maybe the least challenging, but what I like about it is it's fairly dry. It's incensey, it's deep. I found this with this perfume, but a lot of them, that they open really big and then almost like a vacuum, they seem to disappear, which is something I found with Jean-Claude Elena's compositions as well. But as you wear it, it starts to warm back up on the skin. It starts to grow and really perform well after that. May have something to do with the concentration. There's some zippy top notes you get right at the beginning, and then the heavier base notes take time to warm up. But yeah, this is lovely. To me, not challenging, not barnyard. It's incensey, but if you smell deeply, there's a lot to it. I kind of get, with complex perfumes, it's the sense that things are swirling around your head, so it's that swirling feeling. Yeah, this is really good. I had the experience again of wearing it and thinking it actually wore pretty light, but I still smelled on my shirt maybe 2-3 days later. So after the first couple of hours, it's not a huge projector, but the oud will warm up. You'll still get wafts of it through the day. There's a little bit of a brightness, but mostly woodiness, incense, a little bit something like hay or leather, but again, not poopy, not barnyardy to me. So that's Fallen to Stars. Again, I think if, like me, you're not the biggest oud lover, you don't love super skanky animalic things, Fallen to Stars I think is the most maybe friendly and the most well-refined, but still without being boring. So let's see what's next. One thing about this package, these are extremely hard to get out. All right, so ta-da, Lost in Flowers. This I thought I would like. I like a big floral, and actually I like the Louis Vuitton, the floral oud that they have, forgetting the name right now. But I hated this. And I think it might be the quality of oud paired with the flowers that I didn't like. There's something sour about it. There's something really like pollen-y. I'm thinking in spring, there's those flower or weeds, I guess, that are green with the little yellow like brush-like heads. And it just gets up in your nose, almost makes you want to sneeze. At the beginning, I'm liking it more. I'm getting tuberose, I'm getting nice white florals backed up by wood. But for me, instead of the oud making the flowers more pretty or giving them depth, it kind of added an ugliness that I didn't like. I might have to try this again. Again, I'm liking the opening, but I remember the shirt that I wore that day, I wore it again and kept thinking, oh, what is that smell? Again, it's not skanky, it's not challenging, it's not animalic, but it was just this powdery, pollen-y smell that I really didn't enjoy. But right now I'm getting a nice floral. It also wasn't quite, I like a lush big floral. It wasn't quite as, you know, I guess pretty as I'm looking for in a floral. I'm thinking like Un Fleur de Cassis. That's a challenging floral that I absolutely love. It fell a little flat for me. But I'll come back, revisit the strip, see if I can remember that base. Because right now I'm just getting, you know, a little bit of oud. I think it's just not sticking out that much. It's kind of just oud and flowers. People described it as, you know, this big opulent bouquet of flowers. And I didn't really get that effect. Again, it sits a bit close to the skin. So we'll go on. I'll revisit that one. See how it dries down. Maybe I was mistaken about the dry down, but I have a feeling there's something about the oud that goes in a little bit of like a sour direction. That's what I wasn't liking at the end. Another controversial one, Silence the Sea. This, on the other hand, while I didn't love it, wasn't nearly as nasty as I was prepared for based on people's description. So this one, rather than oud, is all about ambergris. Yeah, it definitely has a fresh, aquatic seaside smell at the beginning. It's salty. Again, if you inhale deeply, it's funky. To be honest, it smells like a certain male bodily fluid. If you inhale deeply, other people have said this, I believe, about ambergris as well. But there's like a milkiness So it's definitely invokes walking by, I think, like a rainy Scottish seashore. So it's got sort of like the mineralic smell of a lot of wet pebbles and seaweed and grass. I actually think it's pretty lovely. I don't think it's disgusting. Some people, said it was like really hard to take, really disgusting. I think it's not bad. I don't think I would spend the money. It's maybe a little too challenging. Like, when would I wear this? But I'm glad to smell it. I'm glad to have this sample. If somebody gave it to me, I wouldn't mind, but I don't think I could spend that much money on something. It's so oddball. But yeah, right now, if you sniff deeply, you get a little bit of that metallic. But yeah, it smells very natural. It smells like something that came out of the sea. Yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see how it might wear in the summer. I think some people are just a lot more sensitive to those kinds of things, just like I can be sensitive to powder or sweetness. Some people are sensitive to those sea notes, but I tend to enjoy them. Next, I've actually not tried this at all. It's a lot of people's favorite, but kind of excited me the least because I don't like gourmands, but Melt My Heart, meant to be chocolate. Maybe this one I'll wear on skin today, since this is the only one I haven't worn on skin. All the others I have. It's meant to be chocolate with orris butter, kind of rounding out the expensive ingredient. Oh yeah, it's instantly chocolate. Yeah, very recognizably chocolate. It's not an abstract chocolate. It smells like a dark chocolate bar, but actually sort of like brown cocoa powder. There's a cocoa powderiness to it. It's pretty. I think if you like chocolate, try it out, but not for me. It's nice, but yeah, as I suspected, not really my jam. And finally, this would be my second favorite, the other kind of most oud focused one, Dead of Night. Compared with Lost in Stars, I would say this one is a little more funky, if you like your funky, challenging ouds. I sprayed this with a friend around, and he was like, ugh, that really smells poopy. But to me, that didn't last long at all. That lasted maybe 10, 20 minutes. And then, again, I got, like Lost in Stars, it didn't project super strong, but it warmed up and really smelled beautiful throughout the day. I would say this one wears even closer to the skin than Lost in Stars. The main difference to me is that this has less incense. I get a little more dry smokiness in Lost in Stars. Yeah, whereas Dead of Night is maybe a little bit warmer, a little bit more animalic and leathery. Yeah, it's actually kind of a toss-up. I wouldn't mind having both of these, although they're extremely expensive. But if one or the other came up on sale or on discounter, I think I'd be happy to have either of these. Yeah, again, Lost in Stars, I had a real warm, long-lasting, it's almost like the effect of an X-ray, and maybe they are that high of a concentration, where it doesn't project like crazy, but anytime your skin warms up, you'll smell it, and you'll smell it on your shirt, or if you don't shower, you'll smell it a day or two later, easily. Yeah, this has a pleasant warmth. I think it's the rose that I'm also enjoying about this. It has a little bit of contrast. This has something fresh and zingy in the top that acts as a top note, but not floral. Yeah, in comparison, this smells more cold, almost like, like cold smoke. That's Lost in Stars. Oh no, that's Lost in Flowers. Sorry, it's Fall into Stars. Maybe if I compare the right ones, it'll make more sense. There we go. Yeah. There's the oud. Yeah, these are very similar. I think, again, this one's slightly cleaner, maybe slightly more friendly. This one more just all about oud, maybe a little more traditional to the rose oud combination that we're used to. To me right now, Dead of Night is giving me a little more depth. It's a little more interesting. Yeah, it's a toss-up. Wearing them on skin, I felt there was a bigger difference, but right now they smell different, but it's hard for me to say one or the other is better. So that's semi-first impressions. Like I said, I've worn all of these except for Melt My Heart, but I'll revisit the strips to see what the base is like later today. And we're back to smell the late dry down of the Strangelove scents. Got the strips here, been sitting about 8 hours, and let's go back through them. So first we'll do Lost in Flowers. Yeah, not bad. I almost feel like I'm going crazy with the scent that I thought I didn't like in the initial one. It's very light right now. Something floral. I smelled it a few hours in as well earlier. It's very fresh, but it's also very faint right now. I think my biggest criticism of this is just that it's not like a big voluptuous floral that I expected it to be. I think for the price, there are nicer, big, voluptuous florals if you want something that really wows you. It's pretty. I think actually in this case, I talked about the Louis Vuitton Ouds, the LV Fleur du Desert might be actually a little better in my opinion. More synthetic, but it has a big, strong floral character, more jasmine. This, yeah, it just kind of falls flat. I believe it does have oud because the late dry down does have a woodiness and the slight funk. Yeah, there's a little bit of a funk, a little bit of a barnyard, more like hay than poopy smell, but it's definitely there, but very, very, very faint and very light. So that's Lost in Flowers. Melt My Heart. This got prettier actually. This got a bit fresher. I think it must be, again, the iris that's left over. There's a faint whiff of the original chocolate. But yeah, it's interesting. It's nice that the chocolate has managed to last all the way to the dry down. It's not like a top note that just flew off. Don't get anything particularly oudy about this. Fall Into Stars. Yeah, that's where this one is really dry, more incensey in the base, more smoky. But the kind of smoky I like. I don't really like barbecue grill smoke, but this is more like light white incense, that sort of clean, brighter kind of smoke. I like that a lot. Dead of Night. Yeah, this is more oudy. I don't really get smoke, I don't get incense, but I get a little faint whiff of that original oud character, but this is very light. I think Fall Into Stars also maybe the biggest, longest lasting, and like I said, maybe has more of those woody synthetics bolstering it, but they're not overdone, they don't bother me, and they don't smell generic. Dead of the Night maybe smells more natural. Like I said, funkier at the start, but not quite as long lasting, and from what I remember wearing it, sits very close to the skin. And Silence the Sea. Yeah, I can see how a full wear of this can be difficult. It still smells very much like the sea, salty, but I think what's disturbing about it is that there's a creaminess, and I think salt plus creaminess, it really smells jizzy, to be honest. I thought that after re-smelling the strip a couple hours in, and I'm thinking that now too. I think given the good longevity of this, wearing that on your skin and just not going away, maybe is what makes this one so difficult. Yeah, a little secretions magnifique thing going on, but again, it's like, depending on how you look at it, depending where your mind goes, I think it could also just be this fresh sea air. Like I said, on maybe a cool rainy day, I think there's a lot of mineralic aspect, which makes sense, I guess, because ambergris is like a rock. It's become fossilized almost. But I get that sense of rocks and moss. Very interesting. Again, it's like a work of art. It doesn't smell synthetic at all, yet it manages to invoke water and minerals and salt and brine. So that's it. I'd like to wear these more on skin. I'm really torn between Dead of Night and Fall Into Stars. Now, are they worth it? They're very, very expensive. And again, I feel like the price raised again, even in the last month or two. I'm sort of saving myself for one oud to rule them all, because it's not the kind of fragrance profile I feel like wearing very often. So I'd like to test the rest of the Frederic Malle ouds before committing, because we're getting up into the price range of those when you're talking about Strangelove. So far, I've not tried the Night. I don't like Promise. That's too synthetic. It's too harsh. And I don't like the Moon either. It's too big. It's too loud. But recently, like I said, I tried the Dawn. Maybe I'll do an Oud roundup. But I really like the Dawn, although I feel like it had an internal base that went more synthetic as well. These maybe not projecting, not lasting quite as long as that, but maybe a lighter touch on the synthetics that give a lot of diffusiveness and long lastingness. Yeah, definitely right now the late dry down Fall Into Stars is still selling me on it. So that's it. Let me know if you've tried Strangelove Discovery Set, what you think, if you have any favorites. I've heard some people find them really challenging. I think they're the perfect balance between the kind of funkiness, the complexity you can get from Oud, but also a really refined, competent, well-trained noses touch to kind of polish that, make a composition out of it, make something that isn't just a slug of an expensive material, but a really beautiful composition. I think they've really achieved that well with these and made 5 really unique, distinct fragrances. And I'm really curious what they'll do next, because this feels like a very cohesive set as it is right now. So that's Strangelove Discovery Set. I might follow up with some more in-depth review if I wear these more or if I end up purchasing one.